I'm gonna go through the P settings on the Kaabo Wolf Warrior just to show you guys all the different the settings it has and how it'll affect your performance and stuff like that. So to get to the P settings, what you want to do is you just hold down the mode button, and when you do that, the screen will change like P0, and then whenever you hit mode, it'll cycle through each of the P settings like this. Alright, so I'll show you guys what it does, and I can also put it in the description below in case you, for whatever reason, lose your manual. So let's get back in here. P0 is the tire diameter. The Wolf has a tire diameter of 11, so you're not going to want to mess with that. P1 is the voltage. The Wolf Warrior 11, which is this one, is a 60 volt scooter, but the Wolf King that just recently came out is a 72 volt scooter. So on this one, you don't want to change the P1 setting. You want to keep it at 60. At P2, it is motor magnetic pole setting. That should be at 15. Don't change that one. Same thing with P3. Oh my god, wrong button. Same thing with P3, just keep that at 0. It's the speed signal selection. Not really sure what it does, but don't mess with it. Alright, P4 is where you can start changing stuff up. So, so 1 is miles, and then if you push this button here, it can cycle through it, the little dot. So 0 is kilometers, and then 1 is miles. So keep that in mind for non-Americans. 0 is kilometers. I wish it would stay on the screen for longer, but P5 is the start setting. This one I think is really important because if you're not like a experienced scooter rider, I don't recommend keeping it on 0, because what 0 does is it's non-zero start. So whenever you push this, the throttle, the scooter will just accelerate. Meanwhile, if it's set to 1, then the scooter has to be actually rolling a little bit, so you have to kick off the ground for it to start moving. Okay, so next we've got P6 is the cruise control setting. I personally have never used cruise control just because on the road, unless you like live in the middle of nowhere, you're gonna want to keep that off because you constantly have to be braking, and it's kind of scary, it feels like, honestly. So I just keep that off. Off is 0, and then 1 is on. P7 is the acceleration power. 5 is the lowest power start, and then 0 is the highest power start. So that's basically just how fast the scooter takes off when you hit the throttle. I keep mine on 5 just because it'll keep the battery, it'll last longer. But you could always keep it on 0 if you prefer maximum power when you start the scooter. So again, you just push the little button with the dot to cycle through the power modes, and then it just goes 0 through 5. So 0 is maximum, 5 is minimum. Next is P8. This is like the percent of your top speed that you want the scooter to achieve. So for example, 100 is like the default it's set to. I don't want to mess with it because then I'll have to cycle back through all of them to get back to 100. But when you hit this, it'll go back to 1, and then, so like if you want to keep the throttle pressed down all the way, but you don't want to accelerate all the way, then that's something you could mess with. So P9, I think, is honestly one of the most important ones. That's the one I usually mess with the most. What P9 does is, it is the motor torque. So when it's on 1, that's 50% of the motor torque. 2 is 75%, and then 3 is 100%. So that's gonna affect your acceleration and top speed. When I have mine on 50, I don't really go faster than 30 miles an hour. So like if I'm driving in neighborhoods or something, I'll keep it on that. It gives you much more battery life. So if you're not getting the battery life that you want, P9 is the setting that you want to change to get that. And again, I'll put all this in the description because it is a little confusing at times. All right, so P9 is the last number, then it goes to PA, and PA is the regenerative braking. So for PA, 1 is the weak. So what regenerative braking is if you don't know, it's when the scooter is rolling or when you hit the brakes, the energy from the wheels spinning will put some power back into the battery, and it'll essentially extend your battery life. And it'll also, if you have it higher up, it will increase your brake pad life, because you're going to be hitting the brakes less often. The stronger your regenerative braking is, the less you have to hit the brakes, because there's going to be more resistance. I keep mine on, what does it look like, 3? So I keep mine on 3. It goes from 1 to 5. 1 is the weakest, 5 is the strongest. 5, I don't know how anyone can even ride on 5, because it's really choppy. But 3 I think is good. It gives like a good cruising distance when you take your finger off the accelerator. So yeah, so next is PB. That's just the brightness level. 5 is the brightest, 0 is the dimmest, if that's a word. But yeah, you can kind of see how it's getting brighter and dimmer. I should have put it on 5 for this video, now that I think about it. But so I'll just keep it on 5 now. Sorry about that. PC is the amount of time before the scooter turns off when you're not riding it or touching it or doing anything. I have mine set to 5 minutes, but you can set it anywhere from 1 to 30 minutes. So when you push the dot button, it'll just cycle through the numbers. Each number is 1 minute. And last we have PD, which is the ABS system. 0 is off and 1 is on. When I first got the scooter, it was set to on from the factory, and I did not like it at all. It felt like something was wrong with the scooter, but I reached out to Creo Motors, that's where I got the scooter from, and they told me that to turn it off, and it would make my riding experience better. So I recommend just keeping that off, because you really don't need ABS on a scooter. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you hit mode again, it takes you back to P0, which is tire diameter, where we started. So yeah, I'll put all this information in the description below, but that's about it for the P settings. For the buttons, I might as well just go through it. Eco Turbo, and you have single dual. What Eco Turbo is, when it's pressed, that's eco mode. It's kind of hard to tell if it's pressed. You just have to you just know by the way it feels when you push the throttle. But eco is it'll slow down acceleration a little bit and like decrease your top speed, and it'll give you longer battery life, but you won't be going as fast. And then turbo, when it's released, that's turbo, that's just full power. And then single dual. Single is single motor drive. It will only use the rear motor if you use single. So you push it. Yeah, this one's even harder to tell, but you'll be able to feel it from the resistance of when you're riding if it's single or dual motor drive. Or not resistance, by the power of your riding. Like, you'll know. So if you have it on single, it'll be rear wheel drive. I don't recommend keeping it on single. The motor can overheat after a while, and then it'll just shut off. And when it's in single, since the rear wheel is the only one that's on. It's just dragging the weight of the front wheel. So that's just more work for the scooter. So keep it on dual unless... So I think I kept it on single for when like the first week I had the scooter, just because I was upgrading from the Horizon from Fluid Freeride, and that scooter only goes like 23 miles an hour. So this was a big step up, and I was still getting adjusted to the acceleration increase. So I kept it on single, but now I always keep it on dual. And then over on this side you have headlights. There's 3 modes. It's got, probably can't see because it's daylight, but they've got like high beams, then slightly less high beams, and then the horn. It's a small motorcycle horn, so this thing is no joke. But that's about it. So I'll post a review of the scooter soon, but those are just the buttons and the P settings. Peace.